And now,
ladies and gentlemen,
please fasten your seatbelts.
Welcome to PreneurCast.
Business cards being swapped, beers being drunk.
Can I say a nasty word? Can I say procrastination?
With Pete Williams and Dom Gocher.
How well did that go down?
We can talk about that entire thing in a very another rant and soapbox episode if we want to.
Visit us online at preneurmedia.tv.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of PreneurCast with me, Dom Goucher, and him, Pete Williams.
Hey buddy, how's things?
Good. All firing on all cylinders over here. How about over there?
Mate, plenty of good stuff happening. It's summer over here, so it's always a good thing to make you smile.
Okay, I'm going to let you off with one mention of the weather. Go on, get out your system.
It's my one credit per episode.
Yep. Glad to have you back, and glad to be back on the show. We've picked up a bunch of new listeners recently. Hello to everyone.
It's been great. Obviously, off the back of the Profit Hacks launch and things like that, had a huge influx into the community, which is really, really cool with listeners. And also our new distribution partner, Anthill Online, which is one of Australia's leading business websites. They started off as a magazine years ago, which was really cool. And I met James, the publisher of that, did an article on me in the book and bits and pieces quite a few years ago, and have established quite a good friendship, and he's built that magazine now into an online website at anthillonline.com, and they've partnered with us to actually distribute the show to their thousands and thousands and thousands of readers every single week, which is very cool. So if you are a Anthillian, I don't know if that's actually a term, an Anthillian, welcome to the show.
It's indeed welcome, one and all. And I just want to pick up on that actually, Pete, because that's a kind of a great mention. You mentioned there profit hacks, and one of the big things that we talk about in profit hacks is leverage what you've got, leverage what you're already doing, and that partnership with Anthill is a great example of that, because we're already publishing the podcast, as listeners will obviously know, and we distribute through iTunes, and we have our own website over at preneurmedia.tv, where we publish the full episodes, plus the videos and the transcripts and the show notes. But there's lots of other ways to syndicate the content to get a wider exposure. And Anthill Online, anthillonline.com, is it?
I believe that is the correct URL.
Is a great match for us because they have a business audience. And by us placing each episode on their site, we grow our audience, but they also give value to their audience at the same time. So it's a win-win for everybody. And so it's something, just a little tip for listeners to look out for. If you're already producing content, always look for something somewhere that you can maybe use that content to add benefit to somebody else's platform, and therefore get yourself a wider audience at the same time.
Exactly, that's absolutely right.
Cool. So let's dive straight in this week, Pete, and I'm going to do something really kind of out of time, because I'm not a great believer in New Year's resolutions.
I thought you were going to say you were going to dance. I've seen you dance all the time.
Yeah, that's a completely different topic, and thankfully this is an audio only show, because really you don't want to see that. I'm not a great believer. Moving swiftly on, I'm not a great believer in New Year's resolutions. Not because I don't believe people should resolve to do things, but I think that waiting until the new year and then saying you're going to do something isn't always the best way to do it. It's constant and kind of decided and supported effort that you need to do to make things change, and that is a big message behind something that we haven't talked about for a while, which is the 7 levers of business. Now, we could have said, hey, it's our January episode, and starting in January you should all look at the 7 levers of business and pick an area and so on and so on. And I just thought, I'm going to do what they call a pattern interrupt. Before it gets to January, I think we should remind people that each week or each month, they should be thinking about the big areas of profit in their business and taking some action regularly to make a difference. What do you think?
No, I think that's the big thing. That's a great sort of business resolution to sort of move forward next year and say, look, every week or even every month, you can adjust as you listen to the show how you want to apply this, but just regularly having that framework that you come back to and you make that the core sort of driver of your business growth next year is a very, very smart play.
Cool. So what I was thinking was that, we have a lot of long-time listeners on, but I'm thinking some of them have fallen off the wagon of the 7 levers. And maybe aren't sticking with it as much as they should. And at the same time, we have all these new listeners. So could you kind of run us through the framework, which is a really important point of this, is it is a framework, and we love our frameworks on the show. Run us through the framework, but can we give it some context? Can we give some real-world examples of how people can do something about each of the levers? So start with what is the 7 levers, but as you go through each lever in turn, can we give it some real world context so people can get a grasp on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably what it's worth doing is just running through it really quickly to give people a quick sort of context, and we can sort of dive into each of the different 7 areas of the framework. So the whole idea of the 7 levers is twofold. One, as we've said about 16 times already on the show, the word framework. I think so many people, when they're marketing their business, whether it's a retail store, a consulting practice, or quite often an internet marketing business, this is even more prevalent an issue in, that you sort of run from marketing idea to marketing idea, from tactic to tactic, without any solid framework to guide you in your business growth, to bring you back, to stay on point and stay focused. And the 7 levers is designed to give you that focus and that sort of discipline and that direction to actually grow your business in a sequential, proven, tested method. And then the other side of the coin is that what it's designed to do is, if you actually just increase each one of these 7 things we're going to talk about in today's show by just 10%, so just a small increase in each one of these levers, the actual compounding effect is you'll double your business profit. So if you're running a business right now that's profitable, but not making the money you want to make, and obviously most businesses want to actually make more money, by applying these 7 levers and just once a week or even once a month over a 7-month period, you focus on just increasing each of these levers by 10%, you'll double your profit. And something that I was playing around with the other day, I was talking to a consulting client about, which got them so excited, is if you start off with a business that's just making, I think it was $12 a day, and then every 7 weeks you're working through these 7 levers, increasing it by 10%, you'll have $1 million profit business in 12 months' time, or just over 12 months' time. So this definitely does apply to people who are just starting out as your framework of week 1, you focus on level 1, week 2, level 2, go through to the end of the 7 levers, and then at week 8 you start again, and you can continue to work these levers over and over again. Just over 12 months, you'll end up with $1 million profit in your business, which is very, very cool.
Now, there are some things about this that I really, really like. I get very enthusiastic about 7 levels of business, and one of the reasons is because it's basic math. It's nothing more than basic math. This idea that increasing each significant element, or lever as we call it, by 10%, you can do the math without knowing what the 7 levers are. That you can see that increasing each one by 10% has a cumulative effect, and over time it feeds back into itself, and I love that. But the other thing I love is it's completely business, strategy, tactic independent. It doesn't matter what your business is, because these areas are areas of every business. They are areas you should be paying attention to anyway, but with our framework it just focuses you, and that's the most important thing, that you can go out there and you can look for a tactic, you can look for something to try, a marketing idea to try, but this framework focuses you into each of these 7 areas, and I just think it's such a powerful concept, because so many people are out there looking for the silver bullet or whatever it is. But as we've mentioned before in a number of times on the show, that business is business is business. You've given examples and I've given examples of stories we've read, books we've read, pieces of marketing we've come across from 100 years ago that are applying the same basic business and marketing concepts that are still valid today. And that's what I really like about this. So I just want to fit that in everybody's head, because depending on whatever example we give as we go forwards, it's just an example, but there's always going to be a mapping to every and any business.
And I think the thing is, I was going to say that you were touching on before, right, the whole 2013 and making a habit of this is that it's very, very easy to get distracted and understand what the 7 levers are and get distracted by the next silver bullet or magic bullet or shiny object, whatever it might be that kind of ends up as a pitch in your email inbox. But you have to make sure when you're looking at that, okay, how does this apply to increasing one of these 7 levers? Because no matter what it is, if it's going to make your business money, it has to do something to increase one or more of these levers. And if you can't clearly identify how that fits with one of these levers and how it's going to increase one of these levers very, very clearly, A, don't invest in it, and B, you're going to buy it and not actually use it properly. So you need to, also use these 7 levers as a filter for everything you do in 2013 as well. When offers, products, solutions come across your desk, by all means, go and invest in them, but just understand where does it fit into these 7 levers and when are you going to use it as part of your 7 levers framework, because obviously, hopefully you're going to start seeing by the end of this show that it's important to work through this on a continual basis. So if something comes up, you want to go, okay, this is going to be great, I'll use it here in this part of the framework.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Really good summary.
So should we actually talk about what the 7 levers are for those who don't know?
Let's get into it before people go, what are they talking about?
So the 7 levers are 7 things that actually, and the only real 7 things that actually drive profit in a business. And they're sequential. So let's go through them really quickly. So the first thing is traffic. Obviously, a business can't make any money and make any profit without traffic. And that's foot traffic into your retail store, or in the example we'll probably use today, it's web traffic, people coming to your website. The next thing is opt-ins. This is the amount of people who, in a retail example, which we use quite regularly, sit down and try on a pair of shoes or a dress, or online, obviously opt into your newsletter or your email sequence, or download some sort of value add that you're giving to actually get their email address and get them into your community or database. The third thing is conversions. So how many people out of all of those that opted in actually end up purchasing something from you? What's your conversion rate of those from those opt-ins? Fourth thing is average sale value. What is the average value of the items or the sale? Fundamentally, it's the items that you're actually selling. Because obviously the higher the value, higher price ticket items you sell, obviously that's generally going to relate to more revenue and more profit. The next thing is average items per sale. Well, how many items do people buy per sale from you? Do they buy an ebook and then also buy the upsell, which is the audio product version, or a membership program, or is it a continuity scenario? Maybe you have a $97 membership platform where every month they spend $97 with you. Well, obviously that's an average value of $97, but they're buying 12 times a year from you because it's in that sort of continuity. Because that's the next thing. It's average transactions per customer. How many times do they actually buy from you? And that's where continuity works really, really well, as I just mentioned. And finally, there's profit margin. How much margin do you actually have in the products you're selling? So obviously that takes into account your cost of acquisition, your affiliate commissions, and your cost of goods and all that sort of stuff. So they're the 7 levers that actually drive a business. And what you find is if you actually increase each one of those by just 10%, you actually will double the profit of a business. So let's run through that math really, really quickly and move on, because I know math can scare people, and the people in the car or walking their dog or things like that can't necessarily get a pen and paper out or a calculator and do it with us. But let's actually run through this.
Yeah, can you keep the numbers easy? Because I'll have to take my shoes and socks off if I run out of fingers.
Sure. So let's say, hypothetically, just to make it easy, you've got 10,000 visitors. So 10,000, your traffic level is 10,000. Your opt-in rate, let's say 20% of those people opt into your email list, which is obviously quite high, but let's say that is the case. And then of that 20%, a further 20% purchase. So you've got 10,000 people coming to your website, 20% of that actually opt in, 20% of those who opt in eventually buy something from you. Your average sale value is maybe, let's say $30. It's an ebook or an audio program or something like that. Right now, you're only selling one item per transaction. You don't have an upsell sequence or anything like that. So that's your average items per sale is 1. Your transactions per customer might be 2. So they might buy twice from you a year. They buy an ebook in January and another ebook from you in July when you make another offer, hypothetically. And let's say your profit margin is 50% because you've got cost of acquisition, or it's all your sales are coming from joint venture partners, hypothetically. So it's a 50% profit margin. So if we calculate that out, what that is going to give us is a profit right now of about $12,000. You've got 10,000 visitors, 2,000 from opt-ins, 20% of that turns into customers, so you have 400 customers, At an average sales value of $30 and one item per sale, you're making about $24,000 in revenue based on 2 transactions a year, which at 50% profit margin gives you $12,000. So hopefully that sort of made sense. I know I ran through that pretty quickly, but you've got a $12,000 profit margin. So if over the next 7 weeks, you just spent 1 week on each of these 7 levers. So next week, you actually focus on increasing your traffic. And we'll talk about some ways to do that in a moment. But you increase traffic by 10%. You've now gone from 10,000 to 11,000 visitors. Maybe you test a Facebook campaign. Maybe you do a guest blog post on someone else's site and drive traffic to your site. You just increase your traffic by 10% by doing some form of marketing. That's what you do next week. That's your focus for next week. You set up a Facebook campaign, hypothetically, and do 2 guest posts that increase your traffic by 10%. Great, tick that box. Following week, you actually look at something to actually increase your opt-in rates. So you actually work out a way, you do a split test on your opt-in page, you maybe put some logos of some media outlets you've been featured in, you change the headline, and you're able to increase your opt-in rate from 20% to 22%. So this is not a 10% increase from 20 to 30%. It's just an actual, on itself 10% increase. So you go from 20% to 22%. Very, very easy to do. Split test a headline, you'll probably find that you actually might increase that opt-in rate by more than 10% by doing very simple things like that. So that's week 2. Week 3, we now go and work out how to actually change our conversions and increase them by 10%. Again, from 20 to 22%. So, you might actually change your sales letter. You actually adjust your sales letter. Maybe you actually just put an offer in your autoresponder sequence. So, the week after they opt in, they get an offer. You maybe do something like Frank Kern's 4-day cash machine or our why, what, how sequence or whatever it might be to actually increase your conversions. And that's something you could easily do in a week and just get that small 10% increase. The next thing is average sales value. Well, why can't you just increase your prices by 10%? Maybe you can do an audio version. You've got an ebook. Well, sit down in week 4 and record yourself talking through the ebook. So you now have the audio version of that product. Well, what you can do now is you can increase your price from $30 for that ebook to just $33 hypothetically. Now, obviously, the value is more than that, but you could just increase it by 33 or increase it to 33 and bundle it together. So they get the audio version and the written ebook version at the same time. Very easy for you to do. Takes you a day to record that audio, and that is your increase of average item value done for that week 4. Week 5, we want to look at average items per sale. So we want to actually try and increase that from 1 to 1.1, a slight 10% increase. And what you can do is you could split test on the thank you page. An option could be just rather than giving that audiobook away for free, you just increase the price by 10% just as a test. But on the thank you page, you offer the audio version. Don't need to do any fancy upsell sequences and worry about technology and Nanocast and one shopping cart or anything like that. Just literally on the thank you page, you say, hey, thanks for purchasing my ebook. Before you go, we've got a special offer for you. We've got the audio version available for you for $30 as well. And 1 in 10 people might purchase that. Now, the stats that I've seen are about 20 to 30% of people take an upsell generally. So you can easily get, even with a really crappy offer and things like that, you should be able to get a 10% increase just by doing something on your thank you page. Then that's week 5 done. Week 6, you then go and look at increasing your average transactions per customer from 2 to 2.2. So you do another email in your autoresponder sequence and sell something else. You sell a consulting session. You sell an affiliate product that gives you the same commission as $30. You work out another product to sell. So that's week 6, is working out a way to make another offer to your client base so they do purchase again from you. And it goes from 2 to 2.2. It's only a small increase again in transactions per customer. And finally, profit margin. Now, obviously, increasing your prices can help with that. Looking at cheaper hosting costs. Doing some analysis of your AdWords and decreasing your cost per conversion by 10%. Things like that can actually help increase your margin from 50 to 55%. Just actually doing some analytic testing and working out what keywords you're bidding on that aren't converting. It'll save you 10% and obviously increase your profit margin. So by doing that, what you've actually done is you've increased your traffic from 10,000 to 11,000. Then with that increase combined and compounded or accumulated with an increase of your opt-in rate from 20% to 22%, you've now got 2,420 prospects. with the conversion increase, you now got 532 customers, and based on the increase in sales revenue, items per sale, and transactions per customer, your revenue from the business has gone from $24,000 to a whopping $42,517.46. And based on that increased profit margin, you're now making $23,384.61. So you've gone from a $12,000 profit in your business to $23,500 basically. So it's pretty much a double profit of your business in 7 weeks by just doing those 7 simple tweaks to your business. That's all it takes is 7 weeks of just focusing on increasing each one of those things by 10%. And they're just some quick, examples that I just threw off the top of my head as you work through each one of those levers over the next 7 weeks. Now, obviously, what happens if you, at the end of that 7 weeks, you double your profit? You go back and you start again. You go, okay, well, first time round, I did some blog posts and I did some Facebook advertising. Well, what about if I split test or just test some additional keywords for AdWords? Or I do an SEO campaign, or I do some remarketing or a banner campaign across Google's network. Well, that could increase your traffic by another 10%. So, you have to just keep going through this over and over again, and you continually to double your profit of the business every 7 weeks as you focus on each one of these things. And this is where, that discipline to actually do that and having that understanding, that framework, allows you to see things in the proper light. When you see a Facebook course, you go, oh, okay, I can use that to increase traffic. Or you see some sort of upsell product that allows you to do upsells easier. Well, that helps you obviously increase your items per sale. Or maybe you come across some sort of pop-up domination, which is a great plugin for WordPress that helps you increase your opt-in rates. Or you see an offer for, how, what, why, or maybe Frank Kern's 4-day cash machine and things like that. Well, that helps you increase your conversions or your transactions per customer. So you can actually identify clearly what that course is meant to do for you and how you can actually plug it into your business and when and where you're going to actually apply it in this 7-week rotating cycle of focus for you as an online business owner. And that's a long sort of dialogue there, Dom. Does that kind of make sense? Was it clear? I'm assuming because you didn't interrupt me, it was sort of making sense and hopefully really making clarity of this 7 levers for online business owners.
Yeah, you know what? I think you just got an entire 45-minute episode into about 15 minutes there.
Was that because I was talking quick?
It was just amazing. I mean, literally, it was amazing. You reeled stuff off, and I think we should kind of go back and maybe just take 1 or 2 of the things that you talked about and maybe just expound them a little bit more. Sure. But yeah, I mean, it's... I couldn't keep up. I take a few notes when we talk. I, keep an eye on what you've talked about, and just for the kind of show notes. And I just couldn't keep up with the number of ideas you were generating there. And as you say, that's just off the top of your head for an online business. Those are some examples of things you could do, and that was one pass through. And yeah, just to kind of like pull out a couple of points from that before we go back through it. What I always get from this, and I said this at the beginning, is the point you closed with, which is the framework against which to view other things, kind of a filter to view other things through. We did a whole podcast on this a while ago, because it's such an important thing. Whenever something pops up in your inbox or comes through the post or whatever, or even somebody comes up to you and says, hey, do you want to know how to do this, or do you want to try doing this, or whatever it is, then you need to evaluate it against something. And very often people in various stages of business don't really know what they're evaluating things for. So if they see something that says, hey, get more customers, oh, okay, then I'll try that. But to have a framework, a filter to view things through, and to say, look, where does this fit here, and am I ready to do it? Am I ready to do it? Am I going to use it? Because that's another thing to look at. It's a really big point. Because otherwise you're just flapping around, taking the next thing that comes in front of you. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, my brain's cooling down now. I'm ready to go through it again, a little bit slower.
I think part of it. Sorry, just to jump in. I think part of it as well is that it actually gives you a framework so you focus on all the different drivers of your business. Because the
Yes.
thing is that so many people, and particularly online marketers, I see so many times that when I sort of do get asked to speak at internet marketing events and things like that, and obviously information marketing is something that I do, but it's not my core focus. We have the e-commerce sites and things like that, which is obviously just as relevant. The 7 levers applies there as well. But so many people at these, internet marketing businesses or online businesses, and my feeling about the term internet marketing, but what they do is they focus solely on traffic and maybe go to opt-ins and conversions. Like they're sort of the 3 things they spend their entire time
It's like
doing.
an inverted pyramid, isn't it, of effort that people talk about these things. Right at the top, the huge thing is traffic. Everybody talks about traffic. Then a few people talk about opt-ins. Even less people talk about conversions. And then after that, you almost never hear these other things talked about.
Well, but this is the weird thing, is that if you actually sat down and do some math, if you get home from your walk or your run or your ride and just sit down at the coffee table for 5 minutes, get a pen and a calculator and just play around with this. Go to 7leverscalculator.com. It's there. It's been created by one of our listeners, which was so cool. One of our early listeners to the podcast loved the 7 levers so much, he went off and created an online calculator so you can play around with
I'll put a
this
link
sort of
in the
stuff.
show notes to that, by the way.
Awesome. And have a play around with that sort of numbers. But this is the crazy thing, is if you spend all your time over the next 7 weeks and try and just double your traffic, find out how much actual extra profit that's actually going to generate you. So if everything else stays the same, your opt-in rate, your conversion rate, your sales, your average item value, your margins, all that sort of stuff, if none of those other 6 things that drive profit in your business change, but you do somehow stumble on a way to double your traffic levels in that 7-week period, what's that going to do to your bottom line compared to easily increasing each one of these 7 things by just 10%? Doubling anything is hard. Increasing something by 10% is easy. So go and do some numbers. I'd be interesting to hear people's feedback of their thoughts. Support at preneurgroup.com. You can email us. We answer all our emails. And it'd be interesting to see what you say, because I think a lot of people have been spending all their time focusing on just one element of these 7 levers, thinking that's going to magically increase their bank balance. And it definitely will. But what is the easiest path to market? What is the more trusted, proven, structured path to market? And it is going through each of these 7 levers over that 7-week period, increasing them by 10% compared to slaving away to try and just double one of them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and, my perspective on that from the more mechanical point of view as well is, one, you said in an offhand way, double your traffic. But the reality of that is, how hard is it to actually double your traffic? Once you get above a certain number, like once you get above 1, so doubling your traffic to 2 isn't that hard, but then doubling it to 4 and 8 and 16 and so on, suddenly doubling your traffic becomes a significant undertaking and can cost money or time and effort and all the rest of those things. And you can spend all your time doing it. And as you say, what's the end result? But more importantly, from a mechanical and a real world point of view, so what if you have twice as many people come through the door all in one go? Can you maintain your opt-in and your conversion rate? Does your system hold up to it? Is your shop big enough? Have you got enough staff, etc., etc.? It just all goes a bit crazy overnight. Whereas if you're increasing each thing by 10%, you're not putting pressure on yourself to achieve. You're not putting pressure on the systems behind all this, but you're actually getting, very often, better results, right?
Well, absolutely. This is something that we're facing right now, funnily enough, is that, obviously being an information marketer selling ebooks and digital content online, you can scale a little bit easier. But, in the outdoor gear store, which is a business we've recently got involved with here in Australia, and we're, really pushing the e-commerce side and taking that business from where it was to some huge things already. And obviously we've got some big plans for 2013 with that. But we have to make sure we can grow organically, because the business the way it is right now, prior to us coming in and buying into it and doing what we're doing, scaling is going to be hard. We can't turn around and just put the jets on with the skills we know how to do, which we've done before in our Simply headsets and discount conference phones and Big Ears headphones and all these other e-commerce businesses that we own. We can't just go in and put the jets on like we have before, because there's some logistics and operations issues that we have to address as well to allow for that scale. So going through this 7 levers and touching on the different levers actually allows us to increase the profits without stretching the operation side of the business, which is something that people don't really consider, which is a very, very good point you raised on that I hadn't really articulated before either. But that is something that we're consciously and subconsciously doing right now in the outdoor retail store is ensuring that we can grow the profit very, very quickly without, putting pressure, as I said, on the logistics and the operation stuff, which would do if we double the traffic tomorrow. If we had twice as many people walking into the store tomorrow, we'd implode because all the team would be out there on the shop floor, dealing with customers walking in the door and not be able to pack the goods from all the online sales. And that's something a big concern people don't think about. And that's one of the reasons that cause so many businesses to fail, is because they actually explode one of these levers too quickly without thinking about the actual overall operational issues.
Exactly, and that's that upside down pyramid again. There's so much emphasis on increasing your traffic, but there's so many things further down that can trip you up because you're not paying attention to them. So again, this is one of the beauties of the 7 levers. It gets you to focus on each one of these things sequentially, but also it has the kind of net effect that with a small amount of effort in each place, and sometimes that's a small amount of effort, sometimes it's a small amount of financial investment, you're getting a return, and that return can outstrip the investment. Whereas, again, flip it on its head, to get traffic, if you focus solely on traffic and you invest in, let's say you invest in offline advertising, radio, TV advertising, magazine adverts, or online you invest in advertising, AdWords and that kind of thing. It's all money that goes out the door, and it can go out the door in quite big chunks, and then hopefully you get a result on that. But it's got to go all the way through all these other levers and achieve the right amount on each one for you to get a decent margin and get a return on that investment. So going through steadily, not only does it protect your business by growing steadily, but your profits grow in a more sustainable manner. So all round, it's kind of it's a well-balanced system. I like my well-balanced things.
This is the interesting thing is, if you ask people really, and they put their sort of greed gland away or aside for a moment and say, look, in 7 weeks' time, what would you rather? Twice as much traffic or twice as much profit? And people think about it, and of course they're going to say, well, obviously the real thing I'm chasing is profit. But you look at their actions, what they're actually doing, and all they're doing is trying to double their traffic. And without really knowing the numbers and the consequences, that can actually be a bad thing. So I really encourage people going into 2013 to focus on the right thing, and then look backwards from there, going, okay, I would rather grow my profit than grow my traffic. Realistically, would you rather have less customers and more profit, or more customers and less profit? And the whole idea is that the best business is one client that gives you $5 million a year. And you can easily argue, yes, that you don't want to rely, and we've spoken about this before, rely all your business on one client, because if they leave, you're screwed. Now, that's a whole separate argument, and don't let that detract you and blind you from the point I'm trying to make here, is that less customers, more revenue and more profit is much, much better than high volume, low profit in more instances than not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I wanted to pull out, but I didn't want to interrupt you, was people focus on traffic because people equate traffic with profit, but traffic does not equal profit.
It's one of 7 drivers of profit.
Exactly, and that's really what we're talking about here. So just to, if people have managed to kind of stand still or tie a dog to a tree or stop washing the dishes or whatever they do when they're listening to us, and have got a pen, let's just quickly go over those again. And just pull out one example. So let's go through the 7 levers and pull out one example rather than the 5 that you amazingly pulled out, just to focus people again, so that they can kind of take this stuff away and get started and get themselves ready for the new year if they really want to wait that long. But hopefully people are going to start right now.
Sure.
So we started with traffic, and we're not down on traffic. We're absolutely not down on traffic. We don't think traffic's a bad thing, but it is one of the 7 levers. So starting with traffic in an online business, you gave some examples. What can you pull one of those out?
Yeah, well, look, guest blogging is something that, there's obviously AdWords and Facebook marketing and things like that is pretty common. SEO is another thing, obviously, but guest blogging.
You can't just do one, can you?
No,
you can't just. You're just too full of ideas.
But I think guest blogging is something that people
blogging.
don't really think about as a way to really drive traffic, and you can get a very good influx of traffic to your site with one high quality article posted on a industry site or even in a magazine offline. We talk about in going analog and stuff like that. So I think something like that is something you could easily do 1 week is write a whole bunch of articles, 7 articles in a week. So each week a new article goes out on a different guest post or guest blog that obviously increases your traffic by 10% and gives you that extra wave of traffic you wouldn't have otherwise got.
Cool. All right. What about opt-ins?
Split test. Using Zen Tester, I think, is a great thing. Just actually, split testing your offer. What is the opt-in box? What is the headline? What is the way you offer? What is the image? So actually, just literally just split testing. Nothing new, nothing sexy. Just actually, split testing is a great way to increase your opt-in rate.
Okay.
The amount of times I've found my initial thoughts are very, very rarely correct. It's normally a split test that actually gives us the result.
Absolutely. I mean, we're great friends with Brent Hodgson, who's behind Zen Tester, and he's the first one to say whatever you think works isn't really relevant. Yep. It's the people visiting the page and what they want to see, and they'll tell you if you do a split test and look at the numbers, it'll tell you. So absolutely, and that kind of also goes for conversion as well. And I would have answered split testing for conversion.
I'm going to actually offer a really different suggestion to this.
Awesome.
Make an offer. And what I mean by that is so many people I look at, they're going, my business isn't making enough money or making the money I want, or I'm not making as many sales as I want. And when you sit down and ask, okay, well, show me all your offers. Where are the check moves? Which is a marketing thing we've spoken about before, is where can people go to buy your stuff? How many times are you offering? Do you have it on your page? Do you have it as part of your autoresponder sequence? And it's amazing how many people are saying, oh, look, I'm not making any sales. And you go, well, show me where people can buy from you. And they can't show you that.
And yeah, that is definitely a topic for an entire show about people missing some of the more obvious factors of business. But yeah, it's a great one. Love it.
But I think for a lot of listeners, if you actually take a moment right now and think, okay, if someone comes into my world and joins my email list or opts into my world or come to my website, how can they give me money? Just make it easier for people to give you money. That is one way to increase conversions. Just make it more obvious how people can actually purchase with you. It's amazing how many people, after doing test testing, say, people will say to you, I didn't realize you had that product. And it's been your core product for 6 months. It's like, well, obviously they didn't know about it, so it's your communication of that. So I think that is a very different answer to the increasing, is that a word? The increasing of your conversion rate.
Awesome. Love it. What about average sale value then?
Up your prices for a week and see how that affects your conversion rate and your overall revenue.
I don't think we need to say any more on that one, because that's the one thing that people do least. And it's the easiest thing to do.
I will throw another one in there, which I kind of touched on before, which is just value add, thud factor your product. And this is something that a term I know you love, Dom, is that if you have a digital product, it's a ebook, for example, go and record the audio version, do it yourself. Go to Fiverr.com and spend a couple of bucks and get someone to voice your ebook, so you actually can thud factor the product. The more value you add into that product, the more thud factor you actually give it. And the term comes from when it was traditionally used in direct mail, where you'd send a box of stuff and the thud it would make on the desk. Well, what else can you offer? Can you actually do a workbook? Can you do a checklist? Can you do swipe and deploy? What other stuff can you easily and quickly, transcriptions, add to your product to increase the thud factor that justifies the price increase?
But it is important that it is value. It's adding value. It's not just adding fluff and filler. It's adding value. We're behind this because it's about adding value with easily from what your core product and your core materials, easily for you. But it does actually add like an extra modality, like the transcript of an audio recording or an audio recording of a video that you've done or something like that. It's important to be adding value. Otherwise, there is no justification for upping the price at the end of the day.
And I just want to make clear before we move on to the next level is that just think about the suggestions we've been giving you so far. Each one of these things you can do within 7 days.
Absolutely.
So you can do, each one of these things is just a week-long project, and then you move on to the next one. So after those 7 weeks, you have implemented 7 new things to increase each of these 7 levers. So that's just a reinforcement. This is how simple and easy it is when you focus on the right things in a business.
Cool. So average items per sale?
I think the example I gave before is a really good one. Obviously, you can go and get really bombarded and overwhelmed and just with the tech and do some crazy sort of upsell sequence in your shopping cart. But literally, why not just on the thank you page after they've transacted and given you money, make another offer? And that way they make that same purchase, or they make a purchase again, and they go through the same checkout process again to purchase a second item. But you can easily clarify that as the same purchase, so it's more items per sale. So maybe you have a different version, a premium version of the product that comes with some Q&A calls, whatever it might be. There's a number of different ways to do upsells online. You can do them as part of the checkout process if you have the technology there, but don't let that stop you. Just simply do an offer if you have to on the thank you page for another product.
Absolutely. And for anybody who is remotely questioning whether this works or not, just go and get something from Amazon and see that completely at work all day long.
GoDaddy?
Oh yeah, I don't like the way that GoDaddy do that. I mean, I'm sure it works for them, but I prefer that the other people who bought this that Amazon did.
This is the point with GoDaddy is no one actually says I like it, yet it works and people still use GoDaddy.
Do you know what? The number of phone calls that I get from people saying, "Do I tick the box that says add everything? Yes, please." when they're buying, they only went to buy a domain and they end up with an entire e-commerce solution.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is again a topic for another episode. We probably should do an episode on this. So if you can make a note, that'd be great. But you need to watch what they do, not what they say. And just because people say I don't like GoDaddy, people's initial reaction is, oh, well, I can't do that because of customer loyalty. People won't buy from me because they'll hate the marketing sequence. How many people use GoDaddy as their sole primary domain supplier and buy from them all the time? So watch what they do, not what they say. Because if you heard me say, oh, yeah, I hate the amount of upsells and the checkout process for GoDaddy because it's really annoying, I've got to click 3 extra buttons, and it does frustrate me. But I use GoDaddy every single week. I give them money every single week for domains that we're buying. So watch what I do, not what I say. And that goes the same for your business advisors and the people you listen to and take advice from and buy product from. Watch what they do, not what they say. Just because they say something works and they're selling a product, do they actually do it? Are they actually out there in the trenches like you with e-commerce sites, with retail businesses, actually doing the stuff they're talking about? So, I think watch what they do, not what they say is a very, very key thing and filter you should also use with everything that comes across your desk.
Cool. Like it. So, transactions per customer. I'm sure this is going to be another obvious one.
Well, have an autoresponder sequence and make another offer 7 days later. That's a very simple thing, is that work out what else you can offer. And maybe that you don't have another product. And this is, again, what I alluded to earlier. Maybe you don't have a second product you can sell right now. You're just starting out and you've got one ebook. That's fine. Why can't, and your ebook sells for $30. Why can't this second transaction be a $60 affiliate offer where you get 50% commission, which is $30, which is your average sales value right now? So your average transactions per customer can be done by making your customer spend money somewhere else that you get revenue from, because that definitely goes to your bottom line of your business and your profit. So have a think about this. If you only have one product right now and you don't have time, energy, effort, or the idea to create a second follow-up product so that person can buy from you again this month, this year, this quarter, well, what other affiliate offers can you offer that person that generate revenue for you that is a transaction that is made from that customer of yours? It's like a lot of people
Absolutely.
don't think about.
I mean, any time that you give a positive referral, which is basically what an affiliate offer is, it's a referral that you get a commission on. Anytime you give a positive referral, that reflects positively on you. Mm-hmm. If you refer a good service or a good product, so you're not getting all that money and they're not buying another one of your products, but you're getting goodwill.
Exactly.
As well as some money.
So find 2 or 3 complementary products that support your user, that give you good commission, and put them into an autoresponder sequence. And that way, that once they purchase from you initially, they automatically get upsold and cross-sold to other products and services that can generate you revenue and help drive your profit margin.
That's right. Just think more about the goodwill that you're generating than some people worry about giving clients away.
Yeah.
And the more goodwill you generate, the more likely they are to come back and stay with you. So don't worry about that so much.
Exactly.
So finally, as we are actually making it full full length on this episode. Margins.
Yeah, I think go and actually manage where you spend your money. I think so many people have AdWords campaigns or Facebook campaigns or remarketing campaigns, whatever it might be. Go and actually see where you're spending your money and just spend, a day or so or a week, ideally, every 7 weeks, looking at your expenses. That's only 9 times a year that you actually assess your expenses. So, go out, or probably less than actually, about 8 times, isn't it? Go out and actually look at going, okay, every 7 weeks, just assess, what my advertising budget is. How can I lower that? Literally, lower your AdWords bids by 5% and see if that actually affects your impressions, your conversion rate and things like that. If not, you just save 5% of your costs. Test different affiliate percentages. Do anything you can to lower your costs. Literally, call up your internet service provider and negotiate. That is actually a cost that affects your business's profit. So what other expenses do you actually have that you can lower in a simple phone call every 7 weeks? Now, obviously, you don't want to call your internet provider every 7 weeks and continue to negotiate because that's going to get silly. But that's the sort of stuff that can affect, particularly if you're an information marketer, which is sort of the context of a lot of what we're talking about on the show today, is you can do that. Obviously, if you're selling products, go and negotiate with your suppliers. And we've spoken about that before, and we can do an episode at some stage on negotiation with suppliers. There's a whole bunch of stuff I've learned from my business partners in the telco business and, things we're applying now in the outdoor retail store and the e-commerce stuff we're doing to get rebates and discounts and all that sort of stuff, which is very, very cool. But if you're an information marketer, obviously, on the surface of it, what I sell is digital. I don't have any costs. Well, that's great. But obviously you do have costs. You have hosting costs, you have video costs, you have internet costs, you have affiliate costs, you have advertising costs. There are costs there that affect your overall margin of the business. So go and actually reduce that every 7 weeks somehow, in some way.
Yeah, there's a couple of important things there. One is that it's that whatever the business is, the margin is not just the margin on the product itself. It's not just markup, which is what a lot of people think it is. The margin is across your whole business, and there's always an area of your business that you can look at. And depending on your business, there'll be lots of different things you can look at where you can save money. So these, and that's kind of the second point, which is that each one of these, as you gave your first run through, which actually took less time than this second run through, you gave like 5 times more examples in each one of these 7 levers, and they were just ideas off the top of your head. We've gone through again, and we've given 1, maybe 2, because you can't help yourself, examples again in more detail of how you can easily add a 10% increase to each one of these levers just over a week, so that after 7 weeks, even if you don't achieve 10%, I mean, 10% is a great goal because you literally can double the profit. But even if you don't achieve 10%, any percentage will accumulate and give you an increase in your profits, which for the amount of effort you're going to put in is a great return, right?
Exactly.
All right, mate. Well, we're close to time. That was fantastic. I mean, you just blew me away with the number of examples that you came up with for each of those 7. And we will, I think, revisit the 7 levers. As I say, it's almost like we're like an accountability partner for the listeners. Yeah, we talked about this before, about having a coach or an accountability partner, and it's one of the things that we like to do is just be there to remind people of the different ways that you can improve your business. That's what we're all about. We're all about improving business, improving profits, and making a difference to the listeners. So, I hopefully, folks, if you enjoyed this episode, please do give us some feedback on preneurmedia.tv, the site where all the episodes are listed, along with the transcripts and the show notes. An iTunes review is very gratefully received in your particular country. We've recently had some good exposure on iTunes, haven't we, Pete?
Yeah, the conversation I had with Tim Ferriss was number 1 in a lot of countries in the business area, and the podcast shot up to the top sort of spot in a lot of categories and countries too. So it's been very, very cool. So thank you to all the listeners.
Yeah, definitely. That's down to you, the listeners, folks. Your the amount of times you download and listen to our show, and the amount of reviews you give us, as positive reviews, help us get it up there in the business section and help more people find out about us, which helps people, and we like to help people.
That is the way to say thanks. And also, too, to all the Anthillians, I'm going to stick with that term. I'm sure it's not the term that is actually used over at anthillonline.com, but to all the Anthillians who have joined us recently since the show has been syndicated there, it's really, really cool. Obviously, all the back issues are being promoted and distributed on there as well over the next couple of weeks, which is really cool. So make sure you leave a message there if you're an Anthill kind of person. Head over to anthillonline.com. Check out the other great articles that they put up there very, very regularly. And leave comments there. Let James know that you're thankful that he's supporting our show and allowing us to distribute it to you guys on that platform as well.
Yep. So there's lots of ways to give us feedback, folks. We really do enjoy your feedback. We do take it on board, and we try and make episodes that we think are valuable to you or that you express an interest in. So let us know what you think about this one and any of our other episodes in any of those places. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
You've been enjoying another fine episode of PreneurCast with Pete Williams and Dom Gocher. Make sure to hang out with the boys online at preneurmedia.tv or drop them a line via PreneurCast@preneurgroup.com.